if you want to learn something about how to navigate the sometimes treacherous or tricky waters of international trade with special focus on the US, then you're in the right place. And we have a wonderful set of panelists that I'll introduce just now. So, first, our only gentleman at the panel, Joseph Scharfen. He's a Czech expert living in Pennsylvania and helping Czech companies to expand to the US. Thank you. Great to have you, Joseph. Then we have the wonderful Terry from Georgia, and she's going to be advising us on immigration and all things related to that. Great. Welcome, Terry. Then we have Petra Nechosova. She's from the PBS group. Okay. Some of you apparently can't hear you, so if you can't, complain and we'll fix it. And please be loud about the complaint so we can fix it quickly. Another thing, so Peter is from the PBS group, and they have started their manufacturing operations in Georgia just recently. So Peter, welcome. And last but not least, we have Robin from Mnovate, who's helping Georgian companies to incubate and expand and grow across the US, and I hope also internationally, and we'll be talking about that. So great to have you all here, and welcome to Brno, welcome to International Engineering Fair. Now, my first question to all of you, and I think we can take it one by one, is what do you think about the U.S. business environment right now? What are the obstacles that the companies that want to expand to the U.S. or expand across the U.S. are facing right now with this new administrations? What are the changes, the major obstacles? So, Joseph, as the first gentleman, you go first.
I know that it's usually ladies first, but yes, I will start.
We can make an exception, I think.
Thank you. Well, I don't think the obstacles have changed very much from like the international perspective. Obviously, navigating the tariffs and trade barriers might be a little more difficult now, and obviously it's changing all the time. So that's probably something that will affect the decision-making process. But yeah, I don't think in general the obstacles of expanding into a foreign country didn't change very much.
Hello, everyone. Well, if you talk about the United States, we have a booming economy. We're doing well. It's a great place to invest. And certainly, I think there's opportunities for all of the Czech business. I do see some obstacles, so I have to disagree a little bit. And those obstacles that I see primarily in the U.S. market, I think it's very much also like the Czech Republic. That would be finding qualified personnel. That's a tremendous issue, but I think that's become a global issue. And so we've been investing a lot. I know where I come from in Atlanta, in apprenticeship programs and other types of programs to improve that situation. I think certainly when you are looking at trade, tariffs have become an obstacle, and we're trying to feel our way around them. And I would also say being in the trenches in the world of immigration in the United States, that's become a very difficult situation, and one that requires planning in advance, because I know you need your qualified personnel from the Czech Republic. So booming economy, but I think there are some obstacles.
Thank you, Terry. So Petra.
I have to agree with Terry on a lot of points that she's made, but from our point of view, I think right now the main obstacle that the government is on a lockdown. I don't know if that's still true or not, so let's hope this will be removed soon. And I think our company has a great advantage because we have been in the US market for over 10 years, so we are more now dealing with the obstacles in the US, not about like entering the market. But I think finding the qualified workforce is a great challenge. Also finding good partners and finding the perfect place for your company. And I think that requires a lot of work and a lot of research as well.
Thank you. And Robin, so what's your take on this?
So I'm the engineer in the crowd. Hi, I'm Robin Bienfait. And I'm lucky to have launched a global innovation center and we host the CBIA. I will get it right. The Czech Business Incubator Atlanta. And what my job is to do at the Atlanta Tech Park is to help those companies that are in the incubator land and expand, not only in the state of Georgia, but across the United States. And I think it's always best to have a partner, a business partner, that has done it before, is on the ground, that can help you plan and make sure that you're going to market in the right way and taking some baby steps to learn what works well and what you might need to rethink or get a partner to help you with.
Perfect, thank you. I think that's a great kickoff. You've all named a host of things that we should be looking into, or the Czech companies that want to expand should be looking into, and I want to delve a little bit more into the particularities. So, and Robin, I'll go back to you because I like that you said it's essential to have a partner. So what would be the qualifications for the partner? How do you find a person?
So I think depending on the stage of your company, if you're early stage and you're looking for your first landing spot, you need to find a community that supports entrepreneurs. And that community does three things. It gives you a footprint in the United States. It gives you an immediate community to connect with. And third, it can actually help you find investors and partners. So that community is huge. And we have over 95 companies in the park, and we represent 17 countries. And so doing that, we also attract a lot of investors to come find out what we're doing. And we have a lot of corporates. A lot of people don't know this, but Atlanta is number 2.5, I'll use the 2.5, in the Fortune 500. But we're number 1 in the Inc. 5000. Number 1 in the Inc. 5000. So when people think about the United States, you really want to engage with that Inc. 5000 first before you go work with those big enterprises, because a big enterprise with a startup company or a company in its early days can actually be like catching a whale and the whale taking you under.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor and actually a good point. I'm thinking, since Petra has already got the microphone, obviously you said you were incorporated in Georgia for about 10 years. You had an office there, and now you switched to manufacturing. So have you had any partnerships that you used to, step up your engagement in Georgia with the U.S.? What was the process?
Well, I think the idea of starting a production site or a manufacturing site in the U.S. came maybe 2 years ago, and it is very much connected with the world changing and the situation that has come up, because the demand for our products, which are turbojet engines for unmanned aerial vehicles, has grown drastically. So there was a lot of U.S. customers that are in need of our product, and since the processes of exporting our goods anywhere, it just take a little bit too long, we decided that if we want to satisfy the U.S. market, we want to start a production there. And I think like Robin was saying, it's very important to find the right place and the right people, and it starts with good relations. And I have to give credit to our honorary consul in the state of Georgia, Ms. Monika Ventrlikova, who helped us a lot with this first step of finding the right partners. We got connected with the city of Roswell, and I have spoken with my colleagues that are in the US, in our US office, and they told me that it all starts with the relations, and everything moves just with the speed of thrust. So if you build the trust with your partners, it speeds up the process. And in our case, it actually sped up all the permits that usually take about 12 months to process. But because we had such good support and help from the city of Roswell, our processes were finished within 3 months, which is very much faster than if we compare with the Czech Republic. I know even at this today's main event here, there was mentioned that the bureaucracy is complicating business in the Czech Republic, and not only in the Czech Republic, but also in the European Union. And well, I have to quote this guy who started the company Drone Tag. It's a very successful startup from the Czech Republic, and he said 90% of his business is in the US, only 5% in NATO countries or in the European Union, and 5, I think, in Asia. And even from our perspective, like, it's much easier to do business in the US once you are there.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, and definitely those numbers that the guy quoted from Drone Tech were, I think, somewhat sobering for all the government and public institution representatives at the event. I'm thinking, Joseph, what's your take on this? Because you've been helping companies coming to the US in over 10 years, so we've had trust, great partners, building that relationship and going not after the big guys, the big whales, but also swimming with the small fish, learning to swim with them. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, definitely. I think most important thing about like any foreign company expanding to the market is practically planning it really well and not treat it as an afterthought or as something that might gonna happen, that we can just try it and figure it out on a way. It usually doesn't work like that. And as Terry mentioned, like for example, the immigration side of things can be somewhat complicated and requires some planning ahead. Obviously, building relationships and trust, I think it's very much in common for all the markets across the world. So that obviously is super important. And it's great to have, community like that in Georgia that is helping companies to do just that. And we are practically more on that administration back office part of things, so we see it from a little different perspective, maybe a little too technically. Yes, every aspect of the business is a little different than in Europe. So I would say definitely plan ahead, make sure that you have a clear way to do things, and that you have actually budget set out to do that.
Thank you. And I think, Terry, because we already touched upon it, the issue of immigration, can be hot topic sometimes. But we've also touched upon it that some companies want to bring their experts. They really need them there to start their operations, whether it's manufacturing or some specific IT solutions that really need that architect coming over from the EU to the US. So what are the most common mistakes, and what should companies avoid when they want to bring over some guys or girls to do their jobs for them?
Thank you for adding that girl comment.
Yes.
So I think that one of the most important things to recognize right now about the United States is if you see our people, we are very welcoming, and we do welcome everyone to our communities. If you look at our administration, quite frankly, it is not very welcoming right now, and it's taking a very strict view on immigration. So our system is built of laws, policies, and interpretation of those laws and policies. Our administration right now is interpreting the law and the policy very strictly. So you must understand what it is so that you never have an issue with your employees coming into the US. The question that I'm asked most of the time is, what can our professionals do without a work visa, and when do they need a work visa, and what is the most appropriate work visa? I can answer that very directly, and this is really important for anyone who's manufacturing machinery and systems, or even IT systems in the Czech Republic and exporting those to the United States. Without a work permit, you can travel to the US under ESTA without a visa for business meetings. You can go to trade shows, you can go to customer site. That is all just fine, and I would hope that any Customs Border Protection at any airport would really open you welcome you with open arms. You may also go to the United States if there's a machine that has been manufactured outside the US. That can be Germany, Austria, Czech Republic. And if there's a contract for sale of that machine, which calls for after-sales service, that means installation, repair, testing, or ancillary training or maintenance of the machine. Technicians may do that without a work visa. However, they cannot do general construction. They cannot do general work. They cannot do general engineering without a work permit. And it's super important that everybody traveling in knows that provision of the law, because the technician or the professional coming in has to be able to say to the Customs and Border Protection officer when he says, "What are you doing?" "I'm installing a machine." Is there a contract providing for the installation of that machine? Yes, there is. Do you have a letter from your company? Yes, I do. And then you should be welcomed with open arms. However, if you come to the United States and you indicate that you're going to a workshop, "What are you doing at the workshop?" "Well, I'm working." Not good. If you come to the United States and you say that you're helping to build a production facility, not good. You need a working permit. So that's very important to recognize how people need to express themselves, what they can do. If I have one more minute, I'll go in and say,
Yeah, go ahead.
the Czech Republic is very lucky that there is a treaty between the Czech Republic and the United States for something called an E-2 visa. It's a visa for companies that have invested in the United States, creating jobs for U.S. citizens and residents. You file it right in Prague. Beautiful, fantastic personnel at our embassy, I have to say. They're scheduling appointments within 1 month right now. They recognize business and they recognize the importance of investment in the United States. So it's one of the best places to process a work visa, as long as the company is at least 50% Czech owned and has fulfilled the conditions of incorporating, 5-year business plan, bank account, creating at least one job, and having a plan and a program of substantial investment with creation of jobs for U.S. citizens. Very important that that's done before actually filing for that type of visa.
Well, thank you for that very technical overview. I think it's very useful for everyone in the audience. And now
maybe if I can add one thing from from what I've heard, I think the most important thing is to get the right and the very good lawyer like Terry.
Yeah,
I think that's a key thing to do once you decide to do business in the U.S. because I'm a lawyer technically from the Czech Republic, but I have no idea about the U.S. law. So you need a good U.S. lawyer. Just a comment.
No, thank you very much, Petra. I was actually going to ask if if your company has had any issues with visas in the past, or was it something you were looking in particular? Any experience that you might want to share with our audience?
Well, basically, all of our employees are U.S. citizens, so we don't have any issues with the visas. We have some visiting employees, like Terry was mentioning, about repairing or like machines or installing machines. So I think that's what we can have this letter and just a ESTA type of visa. So I think we don't have issues with that. But I think if there was some type of visa that would facilitate this, like, because we send our employees to the US and the US people come to the Czech production plant to learn the processes. So I'm not sure how it works for the US citizens when they come to the Czech Republic for like a longer period of time if they need any specific type of visa.
I think
Terry?
They should, but we've... Maybe that's a question to Terry to learn how it goes from the other side. But I think we have some sort of a working program that smooths over things for U.S. citizens coming to the Czech Republic. It's a special program. We only have it for a couple of countries. And somewhere here are my colleagues from the International Law Department. So if you have any questions about that, we'll be happy to advise you and introduce you to them, Terry, as well, if you want to learn more. Well, thank you all for delving really into these particularities, and I'm thinking let's take a step back, because you you obviously all work with companies and cater to them with their different needs, maybe except for Petra, because she's looking for business offtake and offtake partners. But I would be really interesting because I think there will be some common ground. How do you approach what are the first steps? What are the first things you do when a company comes to you and says, oh, I want to expand to the US, or I want to join the tech part or the incubator? So what's the list? What do you go through with them? What are the boxes they need to check? And what's the process in your particular area? And if we can start with Robin, because I'm really curious about the tech incubator.
So if you are a Czech-based company, you would come into Monica's incubator. That's the Czech business incubator that's at Atlanta Tech Park. And the first thing that we do is we can be your registered agent. So before you go through all the processes of understanding whether or not you're going to move employees or have people work in the United States, take that first step and find that partner. We do that very easily, and the first thing you want to do is just sit down with somebody and think about your go-to-market plan. Because your go-to-market plan, everybody has this early stage thought of, hey, I'm going to go to Silicon Valley and get everything done in Silicon Valley. That's probably not the best place for you, because you're going to be there with thousands of other companies that had that same thought. Yeah. And you're going to land there and not know where you are, and you're going to spend a lot of money trying to figure it out. So when you work with a partner like the incubator, and you are working with people that have already landed and expanded in the United States, you can take those first early steps. And some of that is just having meetings with potential customers, having meetings with potential investors, and getting those clients lined up, and then understanding which conferences you might need to go to, which ones that you need to actually put marketing material in. And then, as Terry said, you may want to hire somebody part-time as a sales rep. So we represent 17 countries. Most of those countries have their sales and marketing team in the United States, but they keep their research and development and operational teams in their own country. And so it's kind of a good and the best relationship to start with at first. And then as you grow and become larger, you can determine how much more of a footprint you want to have. My engineering team is here in the Czech Republic.
Wow.
Yeah, so here in Brno, and there's one in the audience. He can wave his hand, yeah.
Hi, nice
so
to meet you.
my team is over here. So I do my development and R&D here in the Czech Republic.
Wow, why did you pick Czech Republic, by the way?
Well, I was telling Monica what I was making and telling her the problem I had. And she says, I think I have a really smart person that you need to talk to. And so I came over and had a nice conversation and immediately realized I found my tribe. And so it was like, okay, we've been working together now for almost a year. Yeah, and we're getting ready to go to production.
That's a great story. We're looking forward to your success. Now I'm thinking, Joseph, because you obviously also work with companies, but more from a consultancy point of view. So what's your process with companies coming to you?
Well, I think at first it's really helping them realize what their best plan for the expansion is. And there are generally two ways to do it. One is to try to build a team yourself and practically hire US employees to do most of the stuff, obviously depending on the industry that you are in. It usually makes sense to keep the R&D here, especially we work with a lot of like software companies and software developers. So they have their engineering departments here because fortunately Czech Republic has a lot of great talent. Although it's obviously harder to find nowadays, but the same problem is pretty much global. So that would be one thing. Another thing is like you may try actually to outsource your sales somewhat. But from our perspective, we deal more with the technical stuff. So we are your back office guys. I always say we do the boring stuff.
What's the boring stuff?
The boring stuff, nevertheless important. is taxes, accounting. We also do a lot of. We have partners, and we may want to talk after, because we actually process E2 visas for people. We actually have one interview on the 23rd this month. Yeah. I think they do it once a month, so that's usually the schedule. So yeah, taxes, accounting, visas, then HR, because obviously labor law is very different between like Europe and the United States. US is great because the labor market is way more flexible than in Europe in general, but it has some customary things that are completely different. Yes, we also started doing sales, so outsourcing sales processes. But yeah, like helping the founders of the companies realize what their best way to do things is, and whether they decide to hire people in the U.S. or go about it a little differently. That's probably a big part of the.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of companies come with big expectations and a somewhat inconcrete plan. So it's up to you, the experts, to bring them to the ground and say, okay, these are the hoops that you need to go through before you take the next step. And over to Terry. So just curious from your obviously you deal primarily with law, and Peter said that you need a really great lawyer when you're entering the U.S. market. So what's the process at your office with incoming companies that want to bring over some people, let's say?
Well, I think that it's really important when you're entering the U.S. market. As a first step, we typically involve our economic development, legal partners in talking to business, because it's very important to look for your site before you actually come to the U.S. market. Don't make too rash of a decision. Talk to the various states. While I have a big affinity for wanting to bring everybody to Georgia, I do think it's important for companies to recognize the resources that you have right here in Europe. All the U.S. states, or a lot of them that do a lot of foreign direct investment support, have offices. There's Georgia, there's South Carolina, there's Virginia. They all have staff. They do not charge for their services, and they're the ones that can provide incentives. And this is really important because depending on what you're doing in the United States, whether you're manufacturing or even if you're creating a certain number of jobs, those states have the power to give you powerful incentives from a tax or employment support or skills support, training support perspective. So you have to ask. If you don't ask, they won't give. And if you make the decision too quickly about where you're going and don't talk to different folks within a state or within the United States, you may be disadvantaging yourself. So that's the first thing we do. We look at the economic development standpoint of things. The second thing we do is we look at the legal action plan. A lot of times that starts with an incorporation, which is fairly simple in the United States based on tax advice. That's easy. That's the easy part. Then we look at the immigration and see who you need in the United States, how we can get them there, and how long it's going to take. That's very critical. Big mistake I see a lot of times is companies offering a job to someone in the Czech Republic or Germany or wherever else who doesn't ultimately qualify for the visa. And that can be a tremendous issue. And then we run through the employment law implications of where you're establishing, the cost, and make sure that legally that's going to make sense for the business. As Joseph was just saying, it's really important to look at these things. Earlier today, I was talking to an IT company that said they were thinking of Silicon Valley. Well, California's great. I love California. But an engineer or an IT professional in Silicon Valley is going to start at $120,000 a year. Does that fit into your business plan? And do you really need to be there? Question mark. I most of the time say with a startup, no. So it's good to look at those aspects of where you're going to invest and look at the community.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, that's a good point. And definitely a great point towards the startups that not everyone should be headed to California, and they should assess their capabilities for both in terms of human resources as well as the financial resources. I'm thinking we've touched upon the technicalities and the process, and my question would be what strategies of entering the US market have proven the most effective in your company? Or more precisely, can you share one success story in your incubator or in your area that could be a sort of a model example for our listeners, our audience, that they can learn from or inspire themselves? So, Joseph?
Oh, okay. Because we work with variety of companies and we are not industry specific. So the path of our clients are usually diverging very much and are very much different. But I would say what would be fitting here is probably one of our clients that has a super amazing technology. They do non-destructive material testing and they work with Boeing and SpaceX, and they actually just opened like a research facility in Utah.
That's impressive.
And their plan was basically to take, because I think they tried to expand before and they actually hired somebody in the US, although like a lot of the companies, they don't just hire people because they don't want to employ them, and there is a lot of cost associated with payroll and benefits and stuff like that. So they hire them as contractors, which has its downsides. And I think they had a problem like that where the contractor was basically not doing much of anything. And eventually they decided to actually bring one of the managers.
That's the trusted partner issue.
Yep. And yeah, that's the oversight issue. Like, I mean, you can employ people in the US, but your next thought has to be like how I'm gonna manage them. And you know, some companies are great because they have very meticulous, let's say, management style, even in the Czech Republic, and they can actually afford to manage, that employee overseas. But it takes a lot of time. It's not like I will hire someone and then the job is done, even though I'm paying them a lot of money. Some of the Czech companies maybe, I'm paying, 120 grand a year for someone, so I'm expecting they're gonna actually build my business. Not gonna happen. So yes, if you are managing them remotely, you have to like really put the time in and actually talk to the people and make them feel as a part of the team, so that they can really, enable your company's growth. And when I was talking about our client, they actually relocated one of the managers.
Okay.
Because it didn't work for them, and every company is different and management style is different. So for them, they really needed someone on the ground to manage the team and make sure it works, because remotely it wasn't just working. So yeah, every path is a little different, but I think the realization has to be: do I need to be there? That I think is one point, and a second point would be like narrow it down as much as possible, because a lot of companies, they have a lot of wonderful products and a lot of wonderful services, and it usually doesn't make sense to go to a new market and offer all of them. You should really, and also geographically limited maybe. If you decide you are in Georgia, like start in Georgia first and grow from there. Like a lot of the great businesses we see in the US didn't start as national businesses or, businesses that would be everywhere. They usually started somewhere and then branched out from there. So limit your scope of products maybe, and your focus, and stay focused on what you are doing best. And second, like, make sure that you understand that you can manage the company either physically or remotely.
The management strategy. And I agree, everyone has to start from somewhere. So Petra, what was your experience with, if you want to comment on the management issues, or what was really the decision to scale up your operations there? What stands out most from your strategy?
Well, the strategy, like I said, started a couple of years ago, and it came up with the growing demand. And actually, the biggest issue right now around the world is scaling up production, and that's our big challenge. And I think it's a challenge for a lot of companies in the defense area. And we actually, with this idea of starting production in the US, that first came with more like the idea of being closer to our US customers, but now it helps us globally because we just started like a month ago, like producing, but we plan to produce thousands of engines in the US. And our investments there don't end with this first production side, which is $20 million investment in Georgia right now, but we have a plan for investing another additional $90 million. And like Terry was saying,
that's a big number.
It's a big number, but we are very happy in Georgia. We have great relations and good support, and I have to say also we have a great cooperation with the University of Georgia Tech. And it's also important to have skilled people in the area, so you can find the right employees that will help you with your production, because our business is high tech oriented, and it's not easy to find engineers that are experienced in this business. So we are happy in Georgia, but like Terry was saying, we are still shopping around for our next venue for the bigger production that we have right now. We plan to create hundreds of jobs, and we have other states in mind. We are thinking about Florida and Texas or Georgia. And we are talking with the state representatives just to see what incentives they can offer us. It's not just about this, what Terry was talking about. It's also a lot about like land subsidies and tax reductions. So we need to make a lot of evaluations of all the offers before we make the decision to invest this big money in the States. But like you asked about like the success story for us, it's also, I think we did this step in the very right time, because after the Trump administration came into force, the tariffs were put also
hard to navigate.
And we were the successful company who were like, okay, we were a step ahead of all the other companies because we already thought about starting the production, and we don't need to worry too much about the exports of our products to the States right now. But the politics changes a lot, so I mean, this is a temporary issue, I'm sure, for everybody, but it's also, I think, a lesson that should be learned from this, that companies, I mean, you can prepare for things, but some things you cannot really prepare for. So we'll see what the future brings, and I'm very happy that we are having such great partners in the state of Georgia and in the United States in general.
Well, you have two ladies from Georgia sitting right next to you, so I think you're in good company, good hands. So now over to you,
Robin.
Robin, sorry.
So I got my master's at Georgia Tech, and I'm on 2 boards at Georgia Tech. So the interesting thing, I think there's a lot of talent, not only from Georgia Tech, but from the Georgia schools in total. So there's a lot of great resources that are less expensive than going to California. Not that I have any problem with California, it's beautiful weather, but we have beautiful weather too. So I have 2 stories. One is one of the first companies that came into the park, at Atlanta Tech Park. They were a metals exchange, and there were 2 people. And I said, why do you think you're going to be successful? And so I talked to them for a little bit, and we helped them build out their plan, their technology, their investment portfolio. They are now our largest company that's come out of the park. They're at $1 billion in revenue.
Wow.
They've hired 400 people, and I had to move them out of the park when they got to 30 people. We also helped them relocate to another place in Atlanta. And my first actual engagement with the Czech team
Yeah.
that came in from here, actually from Brno, was, am I allowed to say their name? Threatmark. They're an AI behavioral fraud detection system. And I love AI. My first AI deployment was in 1999, so it's not new. But I like to see very clever AI. And so when I got to look at their technology, I helped them land and expand in the United States. So all they have is sales representatives, U.S. sales representatives in the United States, and they've done quite well. So they're still here in Brno and doing quite well, and I still stay engaged with them, along with my two Czech partners that we formed a VC fund with, and that's Tackless VC. So we also invest in Czech companies.
Oh, wow. I think that's certainly an interesting information for all of us. And we've been talking about this in different settings, but yeah, we need more VC funding here in the Czech Republic, that's for sure. And to wrap it up, Terry, what's your take on this issue of strategies? What's the most, any success story that you want to share from the lawyer viewpoint?
You know, I've seen quite a few success stories, which I'm really happy about. And the ones that I do see, you know, you can see big success stories like the Czechoslovak group. I mean, they just made an acquisition of 1,600 people and manufacturing, and so you see a lot of big investment that's really driving employment and other manufacturing in the United States. Or then you see medium-sized success stories like an Albaform in the audience, where they came into the market, did everything right. They found the right venue. They closed deals with the state. They looked to the incentives, and they looked to the partnerships. And so these are the most important things that you see. But I've seen Czech companies from the large to the small. But also, interestingly enough, I speak German, so I do a lot of work in Germany.
Okay.
And you'll see a lot of the companies. I mean, if you look around this room, the interesting thing is the partnerships between Austria, Germany, Czech Republic, and a lot of times the German investments in the U.S. then bring in the Czech investment from this side, and in partnership, they are very profitable in the United States and can build together a really great facility.
Yeah, maybe my question would be, what's your take on German labor law? Because, no, just joking, but I think it's even more difficult than our law.
I don't like it.
You like it?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I mean,
Just say no to German labor laws. So it's very different in America, where we have a lot of right-to-work states, flexibility in hiring, firing. One other thing I'll mention is how important it is in the U.S. too. Nobody mentioned that yet. When you're hiring somebody to do your sales or to work for you, the incentives. Really important as part of a contract. You don't start with the high salary. You start a little lower, and you give them incentives. That's what we like to see in America.
Yeah, that's a good motivational approach. Well, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your views. I think I want to end our panel with the obvious question: what would be your one thought to share with the companies, but not about what they should do, but what they should really avoid? One thing they should really avoid based on your experience and background. That one tip, like if anything else, if anything else fails, don't fail at this. Robin, if you can start, please.
So I see a lot of companies that just all of a sudden they think, all I've got to do is fly into the U.S., land somewhere, and just start doing business. Wrong.
Doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that.
Oh.
However, we are very friendly, so you still have to find the right community. You have to have a bit of a plan, and you need a partner. And you've got the best partner here out of our Czech business incubator. So if you haven't connected with that, then you're not working with the right partner.
We'll make sure to pass that on. Petra.
I think my point is very similar to Robin's, because I think the most important is to go there, visit the US more often, just kind of, get the feel of the environment and build relationships and build trust. And I think from there, that's a good starting point for a bright future.
Well, Terry?
where I've seen some of the biggest mistakes is where check business or any other type of foreign direct investment, where you start a business, you hire people in the United States, but you don't take sufficient care from the Czech Republic in overlooking that business. It's sort of like of a mother and a baby or something along these lines, you know, that you've got to take the time as a parent company when you're investing in the United States to oversee the technology, to oversee the people, to do the proper training, to involve them culturally, to bring them to Bruno, to make them invest and feel like a part of the family. Americans need that very, very much. And if you do it, they'll remain loyal and typically stay with you. If you form the business and sort of let it go, not so much. You've got to take care. So.
Thank you. That's a great point. And Joseph?
Yeah, I think I will have to say something along the lines that everybody else had. And I don't know what it is with the U.S. I know it's a big market and it has a big global presence, and that's why I think like a lot of people are under the impression they just get off the plane and it's all gonna be good, and usually it's not. So it's really good to have a plan, and also like assuming that what you do in Europe, even though you are super successful, is gonna work one-to-one in the US is a wrong assumption. It's a completely different market, and I think all markets are. You don't go to, even Germany is very different. Labor laws might be different. And I think it's a big pain point. I was actually listening to a podcast of, what's the company called? Rohlik? As the Czech food delivery service.
I think they're called Knusper in Germany,
yep,
so maybe Terry knows them.
Yeah. And yeah, like the founder was like, yeah, we spent, what was your most costly mistake that you did? Yeah, well, we spent billion euros and wasted it practically because we didn't really think in detail about the labor market. So yeah, I think don't assume that it's gonna be, even though you are super successful in Europe, don't think it's gonna be the same in the US. And since we are wrapping up, I might just invite everyone, if you are still around. We started last year. We actually had our first conference. We call it US Expand. It's in Prague. It was in October. It's gonna be this year again on 23rd. And we actually bring some of our clients and some other people, not only companies that we can work with, but our hope is to create some sort of Czech US business community that's kind of here and gives a platform to people to actually learn about the market and grow from there. So if you would be interested in attending, find me or my colleague Andrea that's somewhere around, and we would be happy to give you an invite.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think you can find some great guests here for that conference. And I want to thank all of our brilliant panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think we've heard some practical steps, some things to avoid, some things to look deeper into. Thank you, Petra, for sharing your experience with expanding and going with the manufacturing. Thank you to each and every one of you. And please join me in a huge round of applause for all our panelists. Thank you so much.